All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to quickly give you an overview of the assignment for our first Unit 1 writing workshop, where you'll be writing an argumentative paragraph about the early part of American history. You'll hear me call it a couple times in this video, the first chapter of the American story. So first thing, in Google Classroom, you will find the first part of this writing workshop is called the First Progress Check-in Unit 1 Writing Workshop. You'll click that. I have the steps in here. I also have the rubric in here that you can and should look at to see how you'll be graded on this assignment. But where you'll start is by opening up this teacher copy as well as your student copy. Okay, these are two Google Docs that look very similar to each other. The teacher copy is my own example, which I will be going through in this video. The student copy is your student copy. Okay, it's for you. It's where you'll write your draft paragraph or your draft thesis statement for this first part of the assignment. And it looks like this. It's got a blank chart down here that you will fill in, an organizer, and then your own place for your draft paragraph down below. So the first thing you're going to do after this video ends, and once you're ready to start working, is starting up at the very top. I've got these steps that you're going to go through listed here. We're going to do the first page today, and then the second page. So steps 1 through 4 today, and then steps 5 through I think 9 next time. So step 1. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what the assignment is about. What am I actually asking you to do here? And the short answer is I'm asking you to write an argumentative paragraph. Okay, so a paragraph in which you are arguing something, you're putting your opinion into it, and then backing up that opinion with details and support and evidence. What is your paragraph going to be about? Okay, right here, based on what you learned in this unit and your own background knowledge, what do you think is the biggest part of early American history, of the early American story? In other words, which group that we've talked about, or what interactions between the groups that we've talked about should be the topic of the first chapter of the American story. So there's the question right there. To reduce it down to one question, what are you writing your paragraph about? You're writing your paragraph in response to this question. What shaped the first chapter of the American story? You'll use the groups that we've talked about, which include Native Americans, which includes Native Americans, which includes European colonists, specifically British colonists, but I'll put European colonists up here. I'll just say Europeans here, but European colonists, and then also the first African Americans, okay, enslaved people who were brought over from West Africa to the Americas, okay. Those are the three groups that we're talking about. So which of these groups or what interactions between these three groups shaped the first chapter of the American story? That's your paragraph. Now, remember, make sure that you can think of at least one example or detail to back up your thoughts, because remember, this is an argumentative paragraph. You'll have to prove your point or back up your thoughts with support and evidence. You can review your submitted lessons 1.2 through 1.6, and the play posit videos as needed to come up with an idea. But once you pick a group or the interactions between groups, pick an idea and then run with it. Try it out. See how it works for your paragraph. If you don't like it, you can always come back and change your mind, change your thesis statement, change what your paragraph is going to be about. But think about it for a second. Which of these groups is important to our early American history, or what interactions between these groups is important to American history? Then start there and then go forward from there. So step 1 is choosing your theme, choosing a group or interactions between groups to focus on. So I'll give you an example, which I'll show you in more detail here in a second. But my choice for this paragraph, which you can use, you don't have to use, but you can choose something else. My topic that I thought about and then ran with was some of the cultural characteristics of European colonists, specifically their ideas of self-government and religious freedom, and some of the cultural characteristics of the first African Americans and the interactions between European colonists and African Americans. I chose those two groups and their interactions as my theme for step number 1, which I'll show you in just a second. And then step number 2, I put it into words. So this is where you're actually going to write your thesis statement, then read it out loud to yourself. Change 1 or 2 words at a time, see how it sounds, add or remove a comma or a period at a time, then reread it out loud to see if it sounds better or worse after making any changes. Change little things 1 at a time, then read it out loud to see how it sounds. So, for example, let me scroll down here and show you my example. So I told you that I was focusing on European colonists and the first African Americans. So first of all, ignore all of this stuff for now. That'll be day 2 stuff. Right now, we're focusing on the thesis statement part only. And I wrote, when I was putting it into words for that step 2, I said early American history was shaped significantly by the cultural characteristics of British colonists and the first African Americans. Okay, I know who I'm talking about, British colonists and the first African Americans. That's who my paragraph is going to be about. This thesis statement also tells me why I think they're important. Why am I writing about these two groups? Why did I choose these two groups? Well, because I said our history was shaped by their cultural characteristics. Okay, so it tells you who I'm talking about, why I'm talking about them. That was the first part of my thesis statement, and then I added a little bit to it. This example, by the way, I'm showing you is sort of an advanced level. If you're going for a 4, you'll have some advanced options that you can do. So to put a little more into my thesis statement, I said, additionally, the interactions between those two groups in the colonial period. Remember, we're talking about when the United States didn't exist yet. It was all British colonies. So in the colonial period, also influenced American history. So there's my thesis statement. I read it out loud. At first, I had a couple things that were different here. I think I took out this period and tried to make it all one sentence, and it felt too long. So instead of putting a period there, uh, instead of putting a comma there, I put a period to make it 2 separate sentences. So tweak it a little bit, read it out loud, see how it sounds, change a period, change a comma, change a word or two, read it out loud again to see how it sounds. And then when you've got your thesis statement written, put it in words, then you can go to the next step up here. Okay, let me scroll back up. We've done 1 and 2. We've chosen our theme. We've put it into words. Then the next step is this peer feedback piece. Okay, and this is going to happen if you're in person. If you're working remotely, unfortunately, you'll have to sort of skip this step number 3 here, the peer feedback. But if you're in person, you'll do this peer feedback, which I'll show you here. It involves a worksheet, so you'll share your thesis statement with a couple of partners that I will choose for you. You'll read each other's thesis statements to each other, respond to 4 questions about your partner's thesis statement, and then have a short discussion to give and receive constructive feedback. And so if you're in person, you'll get a worksheet that looks like this. There's directions here which I'll explain to you. You'll write your first draft. So basically what you put in your chart here, the thing that you put in your organizer right here, you'll write that on your worksheet. Okay, and then when you get with your partner will read your thesis statement and then respond to these 4 questions. To make sure you've got everything you need in your thesis statement, and then you guys will have a short discussion with a couple reminders to give each other some constructive feedback. And that will be how we do our peer feedback if you're in person. So that's step number 3. I'll give you more details once this video is over. When we're done with our peer feedback, the last step in this first part of our paragraph right here is the progress check-in. Okay, the progress check-in will look like this. It's pretty quick. There's a Nearpod lesson in Google Classroom titled First Progress Check-in Unit 1 Writing Workshop. Long title, short Nearpod lesson. Okay, by completing 2 steps only, you'll copy and paste your revised thesis statement. So after you've done peer feedback, you'll think about what your peers said to you, then potentially change your thesis statement a little bit based on the feedback that you receive. You'll copy and paste that into the answer box in the Nearpod lesson, and then record an audio response in which you read your revised thesis statement out loud twice in a row, and then click submit. So let me show you that real quick. When you click into, it's right here, linked right here. When you click into that Nearpod, it'll look like this. There's a title slide, and then the only other slide is where you will copy and paste. So I'm going to come in here, and after my peer feedback session, I might have changed my thesis statement a little bit, added to it, blah, blah, blah. So I'll copy this. If I can get my cursor to work. Okay, I'll copy this and then paste it into my answer box, and then I'll record audio. Click record audio. I'll read my thesis statement out loud twice. And then once I'm finished reading it out loud twice, I'll click stop, and then I'll click submit. You guys will see a blue submit button here. Okay. Then I am finished with this first progress check-in. Okay. Remember, today we're focusing on creating a strong thesis statement. Some of your other teachers might call it a topic sentence. You might hear me use both terms, but for this writing workshop, I'm calling it a thesis statement. You're creating a strong thesis statement today, and then tomorrow Our second progress check-in for this argumentative paragraph will work on backing up that thesis statement. We'll make a claim, we'll use evidence to support that claim, we'll use reasoning to clear up any confusion, and then we'll write a conclusion. And that will give us a strong paragraph that responds to this question. What do you think the biggest part of early American history is? In other words, which group or what interactions between groups should be the topic of the first American story? So now that this video is over, okay, quick reminder, check this rubric. Uh, look at the steps that are listed here. Check the rubric to see how you'll be graded before you start working. And then go ahead and get going. Teacher copy and student copy, open both of those. Come up with a theme. Think of a theme. Go with it, put it into words. That's your first draft of your thesis statement. Do some peer feedback if you're here in person, revise it, and then complete this Nearpod lesson, and then you're finished. Don't forget to click turn in here. Part of your grade, let me show you real quick. Part of your grade is your progress check-in. So make sure you turn this in so that you can get credit for completing and turning in your progress check-ins.